there was a sort of a revolution that happened in terms of how people started finding, accessing, and reading the Bible. Until about 10 years ago, we pretty much all read something that looked like this. Printed paper, Bibles. And then, about 10 years ago, all of a sudden the Bible came out on things like this. How many of you have the Bible app on your phone? Perfect. Perfect evidence. There are over 300 million downloads of the Bible app on devices. And that's only in 10 years. It was launched in 2008. And it's incredible that it happened, and they've amassed some really interesting statistics about things that have happened. So take a look at some of these things that have happened about how people have been reading the Bible. It's been downloaded in every country of the world. The Bible is offered in 1,186 languages. So all of that Bible translation that's happened for decades, especially through Wycliffe Bible translators, and Carol mentioned that last week and her background in some of that, that is still happening, but now in concert so much with electronic devices because it's quicker to get those Bibles out to other language groups. The Bible has over 1,656 versions on the app, and there's also a Bible app for kids that's in over 30 languages and is on 19 million devices. So with all these users, the Bible app, this YouVersion Bible app, they have some incredible data and statistics about what's happening with people who are reading the Bible through their app. And it's staggering what kinds of things that they have noticed and they've come up with. So check out the ways that people are highlighting, reading, and using this Bible app. This is a map of the top 5 countries where people have downloaded the Bible app and what the most popular verse is in each of those countries. So, for example, the United States, Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose, is the most popular verse in the United States this past year. In China, it's a little window into culture for sure, but in China it's 1 Corinthians 10:13. God will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you can handle. And then in Australia is Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then in South Africa, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, etc. And then in Brazil is Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous, and that whole passage from Joshua. Now what's also interesting is what is the most popular verse, not just country by country, but all around the world. I mean, can you imagine, what are the most popular verses worldwide by year? And so, last year was Joshua 1:9, that be strong and courageous. In the year before that was Romans 8:28, we looked at that. The year before that was Romans 12:2, we looked at that. The year before that, same thing. And the year before that was John 3:16. Interesting what verses show up. So here's the question that I have looking at that list. Where are the Psalms? Because Psalms have some of the most well-known passages. And so why didn't they make the list? I mean, think about some of the Psalms that you know, or even we don't even realize that we are from the Psalms, but we know them and we hear them. Here's a few verses from Psalms that are so common. The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work in His hands. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. How many times do we hear that? God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in times of trouble. Create in me a clean heart, O God. The word is a lamp to my feet. I lift my eyes to the mountains. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I mean, so many of these verses that are at major moments in life and major services and even in popular culture. These verses are there. So why didn't they make the cut? I think part of it is because what the Psalms are about. Because for sure, Psalms are about a lot of really good things, and really positive things, and really exciting things. The joy and the hope and the peace and the mercy and the love of God fills the Psalms. But the Psalms have the other side also. And maybe that's why they didn't make the list. Somebody it's been said that the Psalms touch every corner of the human soul. And certainly our souls are filled with love and joy and encouragement and good things, but our souls also have corners where there's other things. And the Psalms cover those corners too. You know, corners like evil and suffering and pain and even death and the tough things. And the Psalms cover those, so it's kind of no wonder that they didn't make the cut. But they did actually make one cut. They made the list of a man named Cassiodorus. He was a 6th century statesman in the Roman Empire. And so he had a very prominent position in the Roman Empire. He worked directly for the emperor at the time. And part of his job was to build education and to build reading and culture where he lived. So he had access to all kinds of books and all kinds of materials all around him. And so what he did is he formed lists of reading that encouraged people to read. And can you guess what was probably near the top of his list? Psalms. He wrote a commentary on the Psalms. It was one of the first commentaries that was written. And he got it into schools, and he got it into people's houses, and people started reading this book about the Psalms, which led them to read the Psalms. So what Cassiodorus ended up doing eventually is he formed a list of several special psalms that had a unique purpose. And he gave them a special name. And he called them penitential psalms. And so these psalms he numbered off and listed as the psalms that were certainly special in a certain way. And the way that they were special is that they focused on sin and evil and suffering and pain in a unique way. And as we know with the Psalms are designed not just to tell us about things, but Psalms are designed to help us feel things. And so these Psalms have been called the penitential Psalms, and all around the world, throughout the season of Lent, they have very often been read during Lent as we lead up to Easter. I think the truth is that we need these Psalms. They're not easy Psalms. They're not enjoyable to read all the time, but we need them. Because most of the time, I think we're encouraged to think about love and joy and comfort and relaxation and all those good things, which are great, but without the other side, we don't understand them quite as much. And this fills out the picture of who God is and who we are and what God does in our lives. And especially as we come up to Easter, Easter only means so much when we understand how much Jesus gave to make Easter meaningful. So only as we understand how much sin and evil is in our lives do we understand how big the gift is that Jesus came to give. So, are you excited yet? We're going to look at the penitential psalms for the next number of weeks, and I have a feeling the church attendance is going to tank. But that's okay, because this is the full picture of what God wants us to understand about who we are and how life really goes. These psalms help us remember and know and even feel that we sin. The psalms help us remember that people sin against us and we can feel it, and it makes a difference in us. The psalms even help us know that God brings a way through the sin that we experience and the sin that others commit toward us. We need the Psalms. So Psalm 6, which is what we're going to look at today, is King David trying to communicate how sin makes him feel. He's not trying to make a case that sin happens. He's not trying to argue for anything about sin. He's just trying to communicate how sin makes him feel. And we don't know all the details of the sin that happened, whether it was something he committed or somebody committed it toward him or how it happened, but we know that there was a situation of sin that made him feel it. So as we read this first psalm, this Psalm 6, I want you to notice how it makes him feel. Just notice the feeling stuff. So here we go. Let's read it out loud together. It's on the screen or it's in your bulletin, same thing. So let's just read it together. O Lord, don't rebuke me in your anger. or discipline me in your rage. Have compassion on me, Lord, for I am weak. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in the deepest agony. How long, O Lord, until you restore me? Return, O Lord, and rescue me. Save me because of your unfailing love. For the dead do not remember you. Who can praise you from the grave? I am worn out from sobbing. All night I flood my bed with weeping, drenching it with my tears. My vision is blurred by grief. My eyes are worn out because of all my enemies. Go away, all you who do evil, for the Lord has heard my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea. The Lord will answer my prayer. May all my enemies be disgraced and in agony. May they suddenly turn back in disgrace. So how does David feel? I mean, what words do you give? How does David feel? How does David feel? He's in agony. Yeah. How else does he feel? He's sad, he's worn out. He's disgraced. He's troubled. He's discouraged. Yeah, this is tough. I mean, look at all the ways, the words that he describes for his feelings. Weakness and agony and needing to be restored and rescued. And then he even talks about what if he dies? I mean, he's feeling that bad, that it's so bad it could end up that way. And, God, you don't even hear anybody from the grave, but that's how I feel. And then he keeps going in the second half with his sobbing, his weeping, and his grief and his tears. This verse that's the longest word picture in here. I am worn out from sobbing. All night I flood my bed with weeping, drenching it with all my tears. Literally, he says, the tears cause his bed to float away or swim away. I mean, how many tears does it take to make your bed float? I mean, that's how he's feeling. I mean, it's like David is trying to get at all the ways that this sin is affecting him. And it's not just that he feels sorry for his sin or the sin that happened. I mean, it's not that he's just coming to God and confessing his sin. It's not I feel bad, I'm going to confess and I'm going to be forgiven and life's okay. I mean, he's just in agony over this. If he teaches us anything, it's that sin hurts. And it's okay for sin to hurt. The sin that we commit to others, it makes us hurt. The sin that others commit to us, it can hurt. And it can physically hurt. Not just spiritually hurt, like that's a bad idea or that's evil, but it physically can hurt us. I mean, he is physically in agony. He's doing physical actions. He's describing physical, real, tangible things that sin is causing in his life. I mean, sin can actually hurt us. Phil Yancey, he wrote a landmark book about suffering and pain back in the 70s. I think it was 77. It's called Where is God When It Hurts? Anybody read that? Yeah, not the most popular book in the world, clearly. It's amazing. If you ever have questions about pain, suffering in the world, this is an amazing book, especially Why Do I Personally Hurt? It is a brilliant book. He explores the idea that when we're in pain, we automatically think that God is a long way away. And when we feel good, God's real close. And he says that's bogus. Because when we're in pain, it's actually the system that God set up in us, created us with, to indicate that something's not right and that we need to fix something. And so God can actually use our pain to help and lead us. So when we're in pain, it doesn't mean that God's a long way off. It can actually mean that God is really, really close to us because God's trying to lead us and teach us something. So here's a little section of what Philip Yancey wrote. He said, when I stub my toe or twist an ankle, pain loudly announces to my brain that something is wrong. Similarly, the existence of suffering on this earth is, I believe, a scream to all of us that something is wrong. It halts us in our tracks and forces us to consider other values. And I think we could put the word sin in that middle sentence. Similarly, the existence of sin is, I believe, a scream to all of us that something is wrong. If I sin, it's a scream that something is wrong. If somebody else sins and I feel that, it's a signal that something is wrong. Sin hurts, and that pain reminds us that something is just not quite right. When we hurt, it could be that God is using the physical pain or the physical anxiety to teach us something. And even when we sin in ways that don't directly cause physical pain or physical damage, we can feel it nonetheless. We can say words to somebody that don't cause physical pain, but it hurts. We can receive an action from somebody that doesn't physically hurt us, but eventually it causes physical pain because of how we feel. I mean, you know that feeling somewhere here where it's not right? Or when somebody says something, it doesn't just go by us. It goes in our ear and then somehow it sits somewhere. You know that feeling when our heart aches? I don't know where that feeling is, but it's a real feeling. It's physical, and God can use that. And it's okay for sin to hurt. So what does David do when sin hurts? See, this is the key, and I think it stands out when we look at the entire psalm. I know that's small, but that's okay. You don't have to read every word. It stands out when we look at the psalm. Because at the beginning and at the end, we see that David's doing something. David's repeating something over and over. Where is it, and to whom is David bringing his pain and his agony and his sin? Who is he bringing it to? To the Lord. I mean, over and over. It's 8 times, I think. 8 times he's saying, I'm bringing this to you, Lord. This is my pain. He's bringing it to God. Now, we've seen this before, too. We've seen it a number of times. We've even talked about this in the Bible Club. The places where he brings it to the Lord, it's not he's bringing it to the superpowered, distant, amazing, cosmic God of the universe. He's bringing it to the all-capital letter Lord, which is the Lord, the I Am, the God who introduced himself to people personally. The when I meet you, this is the name that I introduce myself with. And so David is bringing his agony, his sin, and his pain literally into his relationship with God. I mean, he's not keeping it separate from this relationship that he has with God. This is part of the relationship that he has with God. Even the sin, even the pain, we can bring our sin and our pain into the middle of a relationship with God. No reason to hide it, but all the reason to bring it, so that God can restore us, even in the pain of our sin. See, this psalm is not about a formula for getting rid of sin. It's about recognizing that sin hurts, and that God can do something with it. We decided to call today Ash Sunday. And this is our way of marking the beginning of this whole season of Lent. And if there's anything that Lent is supposed to do, it's supposed to help us pay attention to sin. That's what Psalm 6 does. It helps us pay attention to our sin because we can actually physically feel it. We need to recognize that sin can hurt. The sin that other people commit to us and the sin that we commit to other people. It can hurt. But even still, we can bring that to God, and God can do things with it. Whenever people sinned in the time of the Old Testament, Hannah described some of this with the kids, that whenever people sinned or felt the feeling of sin, that it's just not right, they wanted to mimic that. They wanted to parallel that by doing something physical so that if they weren't really feeling it, they really should feel it. So they would dress in burlap, which is not comfortable. Kids, you felt this. It's not smooth and cotton and polyester, is it? It's scratchy and awful, and nobody would want to wear this. But they wore it to feel the effects of their sin. And then with the ashes, they would put ash on their heads. They would actually sprinkle it over their heads And they would wear it as a way of feeling that, just as Genesis and Ecclesiastes say, just as we were formed out of dust, it's to dust that we will return. And so through the ages, people have practiced these things. And so we have sackcloth in the back for everybody to wear on the way out. Just kidding. No, but we do have ashes for all of us to wear on the way out. Because this is a way for us to remember that we are sinful. But the cool thing is, the tradition that we have is putting ashes on a forehead in the shape of a cross, because it's not just that we're returned to dust and we're prone to sin, but it's that shape of the cross reminds us that Jesus can do more than just the sin that we face. So if you would like to be marked with ashes, we're going to do that now. There's a little bit after that, but we're going to do that now. And so I'd like to pray and then invite anybody who'd like to do that to come up. God, thank you for reminding us of the real life that we live. Lord, we are all prone to sin. We're prone to treating ourselves and others not like you designed us to. Lord, in this season, in these weeks, would you help us to see the hurt that we feel and the hurt that we give others through our sin. But Lord, would you also remind us at the same time that there is a way, and there's a big way through. Lord, as some of us receive some ashes on our foreheads, or some of us do things throughout these upcoming weeks to be able to remember the sin and feel it, may you use that to draw us into a relationship deeper with you. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. Nobody is required to put ashes on their foreheads. This is not anything that anybody has to do. But if this is something that you would like to do and you feel led to do, I invite you to come forward, and I'd love to place ashes on your forehead.